Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Wow.
So today, we are going to be looking at AI art
Okay.
and what it means for all of you out there.
All right.
You know, you artists, creators, entrepreneurs.
Right.
As always, AI's everywhere.
Yeah, it's really everywhere these days.
It really is.
Yeah.
But, you know, when it starts making art,
Mm.
things get kind of complicated.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is something that we really wanted to take a deep dive into because Attorney Mitch Jackson
Oh, yeah.
actually shared the story with us, and we thought it was just fascinating.
For sure.
So over 11,500 artists,
Wow.
including some really big names.
Oh, yeah, like who?
Kevin Bacon, Thom Yorke,
Mm.
Julianne Moore,
Okay, yeah, big names for sure.
have all signed a petition
Mm-hmm.
that's pushing back against AI using their work.
Interesting.
So can AI just take your art and use it without any consequences?
Right.
And like, where do your intellectual property rights even stand when it
Yeah.
comes to this new technology?
That's the question everyone's asking, right? And to understand what's really at stake here, you need to grasp the sheer scale of this scraping.
Mhm.
We're talking about AI models that are being trained on massive data sets of art.
Yeah.
Millions of works, often without those artists even knowing.
It's pretty mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is.
Can you just break down for us what exactly this scraping means in the context of AI art?
Sure. So imagine a digital vacuum cleaner that is just sweeping up every painting, photograph, digital artwork it can find online.
Wow.
That's basically what these AI models are doing. Yeah. They're ingesting all this data to learn patterns, styles, techniques,
Okay.
But the problem is a lot of this is protected by copyright law,
Right.
and using it to train AI without permission raises all sorts of legal and ethical questions.
Yeah, it sounds like teaching a robot to paint by showing it every masterpiece in a museum without even asking the artist if it's okay.
Exactly.
And this isn't just a few isolated cases.
No, it's not.
This is, like you said, a whole coalition of creators who are pushing back.
Yeah. The petition we talked about has support from actors, musicians, authors,
Wow.
major organizations like SAG-AFTRA and Universal Music Group.
Wow.
It's a shared concern across all creative fields.
Yeah,
And it really highlights the impact that AI could have on people's livelihoods.
right. Because if AI can just generate art, like
Yeah.
whenever,
Yeah.
what happens to the human artists who depend on their craft for income?
Right. Is human creativity going to be devalued or even replaced by algorithms?
Yeah,
It's a real concern, and it's already happening.
really?
Yeah, artists are reporting loss of income because of AI-generated content.
Wow.
And the generative AI art market is projected to reach billions of dollars in the next few years.
Wow.
So this brings up serious questions about job displacement and if creative careers can even be viable in the future.
Yeah,
But it goes beyond just the money, though.
right.
The source material that we looked at also shows a deep sense of violation among artists.
Yeah.
They feel like their creativity is being exploited
Yeah.
and their work is being stolen, which understandably has a real emotional impact.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You pour your heart and soul into something.
Right.
And to see it used without your permission to create something that you might not even agree with,
Right.
it's got to be incredibly frustrating.
For sure. And that's why we're seeing these legal battles erupt.
Okay.
There are major lawsuits underway,
Oh, yeah,
like the New York Times versus OpenAI and Microsoft.
okay.
And Getty Images is going after Stability AI.
Interesting.
These are huge cases that could define the future of AI and copyright law.
So let's get into the legal aspects of this.
Okay.
What are the main issues here? What are the arguments for and against AI scraping copyrighted material?
Well, the central issue is copyright infringement.
Okay.
Can companies use copyrighted work without permission to train their AI?
Right.
It's a tough question because they're arguing that AI training falls under fair use,
Okay.
which allows limited use of copyrighted material without permission
Right.
for things like criticism, commentary, or research. However, applying fair use to the massive amount of data used in AI training
Yeah.
is a very gray area legally,
Right.
and the courts are only beginning to figure it all out.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this fair use argument.
Yeah.
How strong is that defense, really?
Yeah.
And what are the arguments against it?
Yeah, you've hit on a key point.
Okay.
One of the counter arguments is that AI training goes beyond traditional fair use because it doesn't just copy the work,
Right.
it learns from it.
Okay.
And it creates something called derivative works.
Okay.
And copyright law generally says that only the original artist can do that.
Right.
So this is where it gets interesting because if the AI generates something that's very similar to the original work,
Yeah.
it could be copyright infringement, even if it was trained on a massive data set.
Right.
And that's what makes these lawsuits so important.
Okay.
They could set precedents that change the entire AI landscape.
Wow.
Not just for art, but for any field where AI is being used to generate content. So
Okay.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And that's what makes these lawsuits so important. They could set precedents that change the entire AI landscape, not just for art, but for any field where AI is being used to generate content.
So what are legal experts predicting for the future? Is this just the tip of the iceberg? Or are we likely to see even more battles over AI and copyright?
Buckle up, because experts are saying it's going to get even more complex.
Oh, wow.
We're likely to see a surge of new lawsuits,
Really?
potentially even AI-powered mass litigation.
What does that even mean?
So that would mean that algorithms could automatically detect copyright infringement
Oh, wow.
and file claims.
So like AI suing AI?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
It could completely change how copyright is enforced and defended.
Wow. So what about the companies behind all of these AI models? Are they going to be held more accountable for how their AI is trained and for what it creates?
Absolutely. Companies are facing more and more pressure to be open about their training data sets
Okay.
and to make sure that they're not infringing on artists' rights. We're likely to see new regulations and legal frameworks
Okay.
that address the unique challenges of AI-generated content.
Like what?
Like, there are discussions happening now about creating ways for artists to opt out of having their work used in AI training
Okay. Interesting.
or to receive compensation when it is used.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like the legal system is really playing catch up right now.
Yeah, definitely.
So what does all this mean for our listeners,
Mhm.
the artists, the creators, and entrepreneurs who are tuning in today?
The first step is awareness.
Okay.
AI is already impacting the creative landscape, and these lawsuits are just the beginning.
Right.
Staying informed about your rights and the potential impact of AI is super important.
Yeah, where can they go to learn more about this?
One resource I always recommend is attorney Mitch Jackson.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
He's been a leading voice on AI, Web3, and the metaverse.
Right.
And his take on this topic is really valuable.
Yeah. And in fact, he was the one who pointed us to this story in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mitch has a ton of knowledge when it comes to the legal and business side of all these new technologies.
Sure.
He breaks down really complicated issues in a way that's easy to understand.
Yeah, I agree. I remember his newsletter last week talked about the need for artists to be proactive about protecting their intellectual property in the age of AI.
Right.
And he had some really good tips.
Oh, like what?
Like registering your copyrights, using watermarks on your digital work,
Oh, that's a good idea.
understanding the terms of service of any AI platforms you use,
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah, those are all really good points.
For sure.
And for listeners who want to keep up with all things AI, Web3, and the metaverse,
Yeah,
connecting with Mitch on LinkedIn and subscribing to his weekly newsletter is a great idea.
for sure. It's full of useful legal and business tips for navigating this new world.
Definitely. We'll be sure to include links to his profile and his newsletter in the show notes so you can easily connect with him and stay updated.
Perfect. This really feels like a turning point. Not just for the art world, but for all of us. We're
Right.
dealing with fundamental questions about creativity ownership and how technology fits into our lives.
Yeah. And if AI can create art, then what does it even mean to be human and creative?
That's the big question, and I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But I think it's a conversation we need to be having.
I agree. It's not about being afraid of AI,
Right.
but it's about understanding it
For sure.
and figuring out how to use it in a way that respects artists.
And elevates human expression.
Exactly.
And I think part of that means addressing the ethical implications of AI scraping.
Right, because even if it's legal,
Yeah.
is it ethical?
Right. Is it right for companies to make money from AI models that were trained on artists' work without their permission or giving them something in return?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's not just about what the law allows.
Right.
It's about what's fair to the artists.
Exactly.
And I think that's where we need to focus now.
Yeah.
Instead of just asking if AI can make art, we need to ask how we can use AI in a way that actually helps artists.
Yeah. How can we support and empower them rather than replace them?
Exactly.
Right.
We need to be thinking about artists and AI working together,
Yeah.
finding ways to protect their rights and make sure they're compensated fairly.
Right.
And ultimately, how can we use the power of AI to make human creativity even better.
It all comes back to the value of human creativity, even with machines making art.
Yeah.
It's the human element, the emotions, the experiences, the perspectives.
Yeah.
Those are the things that really connect with us. It all comes back to the value of human creativity, even with machines making art. It's the human element, the emotions, the experiences, the perspectives.
Yeah, it's like the difference between a performance that's technically perfect but kind of soulless.
Right.
Versus one that's raw and vulnerable and full of heart.
Exactly.
You can appreciate the skill in both.
Yeah.
But it's that human connection that really moves you.
For sure. And that's where I think artists can really shine. Embracing those qualities that AI just can't replicate, the originality, the emotional depth, the stories woven into their work.
Right.
Those are the things that make art meaningful and connect with us on a human level.
So maybe the key is to not see AI as a threat, but as a tool.
Yeah.
A new way to explore and be creative.
I think that's a great way to look at it. AI can be a powerful tool for inspiration and experimentation.
Right.
For pushing those creative boundaries.
Yeah, imagine artists and AI working together to create entirely new art forms.
Right.
Or exploring ideas in ways that they never could before.
Yeah, that's where the real value is.
Okay.
In that collaboration between human and machine, each bringing their own strengths to the process.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation.
It has.
It's so clear that AI is here to stay.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep changing the creative landscape in ways we can't even imagine.
For sure.
But I really am hopeful that by talking about these things, by advocating for artists' rights, and by embracing that unique power of human creativity,
for sure,
we can make sure this new frontier benefits everyone.
I agree. The future of art in the age of AI is still being written, and it's up to all of us to shape it.
So well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
We've covered so much today, from AI scraping and lawsuits to some pretty deep questions about what it even means to be creative.
Yeah, it's been a great discussion, and I hope our listeners have found it valuable.
Me too. And remember, this is just the start of the conversation.
Right.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay creative.
Absolutely.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the world of technology and its impact on all of us.